The very first business incorporated for 2026. Welcome to 25 Minutes, giving you updates from the world of business. And here's what we have prepared for you. In Ghana, there's a new regulation guiding money transfers. From Wednesday to be good news for South Africans, fuel prices are expected to drop. An LNG cooperation is going on between Egypt and Qatar. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John McQuarrie. Let's start as usual from the global oil space, where prices fell as adequate global supplies offset concerns about supply disruptions because of that U.S. capture of Venezuelan president in an what they call audacious raid over the weekend. So we see the numbers for this afternoon. It's a bit calmer than what we had in the morning. In the morning, remember, we had about 0.6% in the red, but we see it's dropped to 0.25% in the red, though, for Brent at $60.59. WTI is also a bit calmer than what it was earlier, 0.33%, and the price is $57.13. President Donald Trump had said that his administration will take control of the country, that's Venezuela, and there's a U.S. embargo on Venezuelan oil remains in full effect, and that's after he retained the President Maduro in New York on Sunday. In a global market with plentiful oil supply, analysts believe that any further disruption to Venezuelan exports would have little or no immediate impact on prices. Away from oil now, see what's happening with metals. We see prices climbed today, also surged after obviously connected to what the U.S. is doing with Venezuela and in Venezuela. So spot gold almost 2% up at 4,411.14. But of course, we know that the highest that gold has hit is about 4,500. So we're not there yet, but the surge in U.S. gold is also up 2.1%, $4,419.90. Spot silver almost 4.5% in the green, $75.82. Platinum is 2.2% in the green, 2,190.55, and palladium 1.8% up at 1,667.45. So investors see this as a hedge in the midst of uncertainties. We do not know what else is going to happen. And of course, we know that President Trump has also issued a warning to Colombia. So what's going to happen? What's going to be the trend? A lot of uncertainty going on with geopolitics, and that's why investors are finding a hedge with metals. The Bank of Ghana has issued comprehensive new regulations that's to govern registration and operations of all international money transfer operators, IMTOs, facilitating money flows into the country. The guidelines for the registration and operations of international money transfer operators in Ghana, dated December 2025, establishes a rigorous framework that's aimed at strengthening oversight, consumer protection, and integrity of the vital remittance sector. Citing remittances as a vital pillar of Ghana's socio-economic development, the central bank states that the evolving digital landscape necessitates a robust regulatory framework to uphold public trust and safeguard financial stability. The guidelines apply universally to IMTO banks, payment service providers, and any institution approved to terminate inward remittances. Motorists across the country are set to benefit from a significant reduction in fuel prices beginning from Wednesday, January 7, 2026. And this has been announced by the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources in South Africa. The move brings welcome relief, obviously, to drivers at the beginning of the year. According to the official pricing adjustment, the price of 93 unleaded petrol will be cut by 62 cents per litre, while 95 unleaded petrol will fall by 66 cents per litre. And this sharp drop pushes pump prices to their lowest level since 2022, with 95 octane petrol expected to retail below 21 rands a litre in many regions. The cuts also extend to diesel and other fuels, offering broader savings at the pumps for commercial and private vehicle owners alike. Analysts say the downward adjustment reflects weaker international crude prices and a firmer rand, which together have helped reduce basic fuel components. And South Africans are said to have been spending at least 400 million rand on alcohol a day. However, days leading up to Christmas and the New Year Eve, the spike nearly tripled. The surge on the sale of alcohol is mostly because of the festive year-end celebrations that was held across the country. In most cases, consumers stock up in bulk. According to the Department of Social Development, this time is crucial time for the alcohol market, and I'm sure by now they're counting their gains. Away from South Africa now, Egypt and Qatar have taken a major step forward in energizing regional cooperation after signing a memorandum of understanding aimed at boosting liquefied natural gas sales and import cooperation between the two nations. The agreement, concluded in Doha, was signed by Egypt's Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, Karim Badawi, and Qatar's Minister of State for Energy Affairs, Sahad bin Sharida Al-Kabi, who also serves as the Chief Executive Officer of Qatar Energy and also there were high-level officials from both countries that attended the ceremony. Under the MOU, Qatar and Egypt plan to expand cooperation in LNG sales and imports, including terms for delivering up to 24 Qatari LNG cargoes to Egypt and the Meta ports during the summer months. And still in Egypt, the Ministry of Civil Aviation has announced plans to eliminate traditional paper landing cards at all international airports and replace them with a fully digital system by the end of January, a significant upgrade designed to streamline passenger processes and improve travel efficiency. Civil Aviation Minister Sameh El Helfini said that the new system will electronically capture and process passenger data, removing the need for physical forms that travelers previously had to fill out upon arrival or departure. The move aims to reduce congestion at passport control, speed up queues, and enhance the overall passenger experience. The shift to digital is part of a broader push to modernize Egypt's airports operations, aligning broader procedures with global best practices. The updated system will connect directly with electronic passport information, helping cut processing times, especially during peak travel periods. In a major boost to digital transformation and media infrastructure, the government of Senegal has earmarked $24 million in its 2026 national budget to modernize the country's communication sector. The funding, approved by the National Assembly as part of the Ministry of Communication, Telecommunications, and Digital Economy's budget, aims to strengthen public media infrastructure and enhance digital services nationwide. The allocation comes amid efforts to expand digital access across the country, including plans to connect 1 million citizens in remote and underserved areas through satellite internet rollout by 2026, highlighting the state's commitment to narrowing the digital divide. Zimbabwe's central bank has announced a significant reorientation of its monetary policy framework, moving to place greater emphasis on managing the money supply as part of its effort to strengthen economic stability and curb inflation. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe said that the policy shift reflects a renewed commitment to address persistent inflationary pressures and support broader macroeconomic objectives, rather than relying primarily on interest rate adjustment. The central bank plans to focus more directly on controlling the growth and circulation of money in the economy, a tool central banks use to influence inflation and economic activities. Let's head to the markets now and see. I know that earlier today we saw a positive movement in Nigeria's equity market, heading close to 157,000 level. So we've even hit it at intraday. So that's a good one, a good way to begin the year, I believe. 0.58% in the green is what we have for the NGX. 157,398.90. Let's talk to Ambrose Omodio now to tell us major drivers of this. I know that banking and insurance are very great and attractive sectors for this year as we head close to the recap. But let's find out those driving this market at this time. Ambrose is the CRO of Invest Data. Good afternoon, Happy New Year to you, and welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello? Oh, yes. Looking at the market, it's a good start for January. And in Nigeria, I'm not surprised seeing NGS moving in this speed. If you look at the history of the market for the past 6 years, January has been one of the best performing month on Nigeria exchange. And for me, because we expect to see more earnings starting from the unaudited account that will come in this month, and also the full year audited will come with pressure in the month of February. Investors are pushing their portfolio ahead of this event that also influence price positively. Don't forget that when there is money flowing into a particular stock or market, we are bound to see prices going up. I'm not surprised in the market in this mood. But the thing is that as to speak now, no clarity as regards the capital gain tax as to speak now. And at the same time, because this is the peak of Nigeria stock market in terms of earnings, investors are going ahead to take position. Since from the beginning, they said that your position that closed in 31st of December, it is what you gain from this one whether they will start. But still have to speak now, despite the uncertainties around the market or the economy, investors know that equity market is a place that can make quick money. Because our first MPC meeting coming, we're not seeing them to see any adjustment or no hike, in terms of NMP or MPC figure when I mean people interested rate. For me, this is the right time people are taking advantage to buy into these stocks with the right price, knowing that most of our stocks are still on their value, even when they're hitting another all-time high. Most of the value stocks are still selling below 15 P ratio. Who said that those stocks are still on their value? That's why we are seeing activities in the market this morning, looking at this level.
All right, Ambrose, how much impact is the countdown to the bank's recap? How much impact is it having on investor sentiment at this time from your perspective?
Actually, those that have met the calculation mark according to CBN, consider that there is kind of a demand in those stocks because it gives a sign that yes, they will scale it. They already scale the hurdle. But for those that are left, in Nigeria history, you know that the most active sector during this first quarter of the year is the banking sector. It's just because of this, some of them are here to meet what the target. That's why we are seeing some mixed reaction to most of them eating up while some are still flat. But good news that because these banks also looking at their numbers, they appear cheap before investors. And they're looking at, yes, even as most of them are come out of the forbearance report from CBN, which most of them are giving a clearance. Some are yet to give the clearance of what they are there or they are staying in or out. But I believe that most of these banks that are still yet to meet a between now and 31st, they will cross the hurdle. And for me, there's no panic that have issue of meeting the target from CBN. For me, investors also saying that once they meet, they're going to the future after this 31st
how much measures
March,
do you expect
they are bound
to
also
hear
to do well because these numbers we are seeing is going to impact in the bank's performance.
Ambrose, how much mergers, news, and movement do you expect to see in the banking sector?
Yeah, the major news we're hearing that it will not come from the big names. It will be from those that either are having issue with the regulators before now, or those also that I think that yes, they've already have the same plan to acquire more. Those are the big ones that have really merged their capital. But I'll tell you that no banks want to move for merger immediately now because some of them want to understand the bank they want to move to merge with or going to acquire. But for those banks that are having issue with the regulators, they can easily be acquired. You saw what happened between them, Providus Bank and the Unity Bank. We'll see similar things also going to happen in some of the banks in that kind of category, especially what's it called? The Keystone Bank and the Polaris. They might likely be acquired, but we don't know who's going to acquire them anymore from now. But for those banks that are already first-tier banks or that we don't see them moving now to acquire any bank or to understand the threat where they are, that even acquiring other banks, you need to also do a lot of things. But for those that are really met the calculation, don't have issue. But for the news that have met acquisition, it's already few are hearing. But other banks will be to stand alone on their own.
All right, Ambrose, thank you so much. You hear more of acquisition than mergers at this time. Ambrose Omodio is the CRO of Invest Data. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
So let's see other markets. We go to South Africa. It's a -1 at intraday for that market. Is it down 0.13%, 115,939.40. In Egypt, it's also negative, much lower than what we have in South Africa, more than 1%. Down 1.31%, and Kenya closed Friday positive 0.41% at 187.35 for that market. Moving over to the Middle East now, we say majority of the markets we track there negative at intraday. Dubai is negative 0.84%, 6,062.48. Abu Dhabi is also negative 0.69%, 9,925.85. Saudi Arabia is also negative 0.13%, down at 10,350.82. Qatar is the lone positive at intraday. Qatar is up 1.10%. Right there. Moving to the United States, for features, we can see Dow Jones, the S&P, NASDAQ, they are positive for this time. Of course, the attack and capture of the Venezuelan president and his wife, Mr. Maduro, they are pushing sentiment here, but I guess this is the United States, people are more comfortable, even though I did see some protests in the U.S. against the action of President Donald Trump there, but we see mostly investor sentiment is positive for the features in the U.S. market. So we'll move to the United States, Asia Pacific, where markets are closed at this time. Full trading week of 2026, the first one. That positive sentiment from the U.S. spread here in China is 2.97, and then Kospi 3.43. Very, very strong positives we see. Hang Seng is also positive also. And then when we see the Shanghai positive, I guess the only one who missed out is in India. The Nifty 50 is negative at the close of trade, 0.36%. Let's see what Europeans think or what's driving their sentiments if the U.S. action in Venezuela is also driving, their sentiment. At this time, we have Chiponda Chimbelu joining us Las. Happy New Year. Las, I'm sorry. Welcome to 2026.
Thank you so much, Ini. And yes, it's me. It's Lars. It's a week once again, and it's really good being with you. And I can answer that right away. Venezuela, of course, Ini, is playing a role in markets everywhere. But let me get to this first. It is the first real day of trading this year in Europe as well. Of course, we've seen some trading on Friday, but at very low volume. So we can really say this is it. We're starting 2026, and it's been a good start so far for European markets indeed, with all the indices in the green, only by fractions in London and in Paris. A bit stronger indeed, the DAX in Frankfurt, reaching a record high today. So much for starting the year on a positive note, but that is indeed, Ini, because of strength in defense stocks, and that is, of course, after the U.S. arresting Maduro there in Venezuela. It's the old story, Ini, when there's rising concern about military action, crises, wars. That is a boon to defense stocks, and we're seeing some of them up by 6 or even by 8%, and that helps lifting the broader market up as well.
Yeah, well, just when we thought the defense stocks were quiet down because of the hope of peace in Ukraine, we see another boost to it, but we'll see how long that will last. But I hear it's not a very good beginning of the year for you guys at the German capital because you've been hit by power outage, and this is happening in Europe.
Yes, indeed, it is happening here. And I can tell you, I am particularly happy to be actually in the studio today, right now, talking to you, Ini, because the studio here has heat and there's hot water, and none of that actually I have at my house right now. And it all began early Saturday morning. Now, from a personal perspective, the lights in the bathroom didn't work. And since it was a new LED light, I figured it was probably a power outage. News trickled in very slowly because the Wi-Fi system was down as well, of course. And then even mobile data is really, really slow if you get anything at all. But then we found out that left-wing extremists had apparently set fire to a gas power plant and to a cable bridge connecting that power plant to the grid. The attack damaged several key power lines affecting 4 districts in the southwest of Berlin. And that is exactly where I happen to live as well. Now, all in all, there are now around 45,000 households with no power. There's also businesses without power. And on a personal level, this is the biggest problem. 3 hospitals and a couple of elder care centers are affected too. So hundreds of patients and elderly people had to be relocated.
Wow, that's so sad, Lars. And if you were close by, I would have borrowed you my generator sets. But unfortunately, you're not. And especially for the hospitals, I do hope something can be done really quick. But I mean, what or who is actually behind this attack?
Well, authorities have found a letter claiming responsibility. It comes from a group that calls itself the Volcano Group, and that is a known far-left activist group that the government sees on the anarchist spectrum. The saboteurs described the attack as a, quote, an act of self-defense and international solidarity with all those who protect, the earth and life. So apparently this was to attack the fossil fuel industry, hence going for a gas-powered plant. The group does write that they apologize to those less affluent affected by the power outages. For now, authorities are saying that on Thursday, power should come back to the affected districts. However, the power company also said that there's major damage and that repairs are hard, partially because the attack comes exactly as it got a lot colder in the area as of this weekend. Berlin has seen snowfall, as you can actually see behind me here. You can see that we had some snow here and also freezing temperatures. The ground is hard and apparently some new cables have to be laid in ground. So we have to be patient and wait. And I know that people around the world, including, of course, in your neck of the woods, of course, on the continent of Africa, have experienced power outages, often much worse than this one. So I'm optimistic we'll be getting through this just fine.
Yeah, I hope you do get through it, Lars. I wanted to say you can move your things to the office, but then you have your family back home. So just bear with it. And I do hope that by Thursday, power is back on.
Thank you, Ini. We'll hang in there.
Okay, so let's go to crypto now and see what's happening. Headlines right there after the price, I guess. BTC starts the full trading week of 2026 at 92,830.67, on its way up 1.77% is what we've seen in 24 hours. Ethereum has recovered a bit, more than 1% also. But we've seen better days. I hope 2026 will bring even better days for Ethereum. XRP also positive. Most of them are positive, but of course we still have pockets of red. Doge is red, Cardano is red, and some of those stable coins. Let's see stories making the headlines at this time. We hear that crypto-linked payment cards operating on Visa network, they saw a sharp increase in usage throughout 2025. The development signals deeper integration of digital assets into everyday consumer payment. And we talked a whole lot in 2025 about the stable coins and the way it's been absorbed and adopted by especially small businesses. I guess we'll see more of that. According to data from Dune Analytics, combined spending across tracked crypto cards surged by 525% throughout 2025. Specifically, you had net card spend climb up to 14.6 million in January, 91.3 million by December, and this reflects that steady increase. Ethereum stablecoin transfers also went up last year in the fourth quarter to $8 trillion, underscoring the network's growing role as a global settlement layer for digital. And there you have it, is the Ethereum stablecoin. So we see more people turning the way of stablecoin. In spite of what the network, PwC, that's PricewaterhouseCoopers, they've decided to expand their crypto business after a shift towards clearer U.S. regulation, citing new leadership at regulators and progress on, guess what, stablecoin regulation or legislation again. So it looks like the trend on stablecoin from 2025 is going to spill over to 2026, and we'll see the level it will get to, not just internationally, but also in Nigeria. Of course, this is our conversation we'll gladly have with you on our business programs right here on Channels Television. Well, that's it on Business Incorporated today. Thank you so much for being a part of this Monday episode of the program. I'm glad to have been on this side. I'm hoping that you go to our YouTube channel to get conversations we've had, especially on the new tax reform. You really need to go. We had a good conversation during Business Morning. You want to listen to it over again. It will give you some peace. I'm Ini John Mekwa, and I'll see you tomorrow. God's grace.